most of the third type of resources are not directly relevant to Australian secondary education. But all these resources are valuable strategic plan and reports of government authorities that guides and facilitate wastewater recycling activities throughout Western Australia. In this way, the resources provide a good context for my video. These resources explain a different type of water uses in urban areas, especially in Western Australian context, where the water comes from, are we getting enough water, and what would be the alternative options to get enough water. Using this discussion, I am focusing on why water recycling is important to consider now. In this video, we will discuss water issues, wastewater recycling issues in Western Australian context. I will focus only on Perth metropolitan region since more than 90% of Western Australian population reside in Perth. Mainly, I will cover the water system in Perth metropolitan region, the wastewater system, how water recycling can be done, why water recycling is important, and what are the benefits and implications of water recycling. As we have already discussed, over the period of last 3 decades, the water availability in the Perth metropolitan region has significantly declined. According to the Water Resource Inventory 2014 published by Department of Water Western Australia, the decline in water availability is mainly because of drying climate, rapid urbanization, and excessive groundwater depletion. This was also reflected in limiting groundwater availability for urban irrigation. On the other hand, Perth population has almost doubled in last 3 decades. According to the prediction made by Australian Bureau of Statistics, Perth will have over 3 million people by 2030. These two situations ultimately result a significant water deficit in Perth region sooner or later, which need to be addressed with innovative alternatives. According to the Water Forever 2009 published by Water Corporation and State Water Plan 2007 published by Government of Western Australia, water recycling, groundwater recharge, and stormwater management are some important strategies that can help reducing the water deficit in coming days. Moreover, the demand for recycled water is likely to increase as the climate continues to dry and the value and amount of parks, gardens increase significantly across Perth metropolitan region. Wastewater recycling has been incorporated into a number of national strategic reports, namely State Water Plan 2007, Water Forever 2009, Better Urban Water Management 2008, Livable Neighborhood 2009, and Direction 2031 2013. Water Forever 2009 aims to recycle 60% of wastewater by 2060, with an intermediary target of 30% by 2030. According to Wastewater 2060, thus recycled water will be used either in watering parks, gardens, and other green infrastructure, or supplying for agriculture and industries, or recharging into aquifer, or supplying as a non-potable water to urban residential areas via dual water reticulation. Now, let's have a look at the amount of wastewater produced across Perth metropolitan region. According to Water Corporation, Perth metropolitan has 640,000 properties connected to the wastewater system that generate about 124 gigaliter of wastewater per year, and it is predicted to be more than 260 gigaliter per year. With additional 1.1 million people by 2030, almost all 99.9% of wastewater is simply water and can be recovered with suitable techniques, as explained by Sydney Water. Currently, 3 metropolitan wastewater treatment plants located at Miningham, Subiaco, and Woodman Points treat approximately 80% of total wastewater across the Perth metropolitan region. However, water corporations recycle only a fraction of this treated wastewater through groundwater replenishment, cleaning up, industrial recycling at Kwinana, and public park and oval irrigation in Subiaco. The rest of the recycled water is disposed into marine environment through ocean outlets. On the other hand, Water Resource Inventory 2014 indicates that only 69 gigaliter of groundwater is available for future water supply. Notably, it is declining over time. That means it is certain to induce more restriction on groundwater allocation for gardens and park irrigation in future, which eventually put pressure on the scheme water supply. A possible solution for this situation could be the wastewater recycling. It can be utilized for watering gardens, parks, and other green infrastructures, supply for industrial and agricultural purposes, and supporting future water supply as well as environmental amenities. Apart from these direct benefits, wastewater recycling throughout the Perth region can effectively reduce the flow to major wastewater treatment plants which are situated along the coastal line and relieve the pressure for upgrading these facilities. Water recycling got its place in plannings and strategic documents. Now it's a time to implement wastewater recycling strategy across Perth region and utilize the recycled water for appropriate and fit for purpose activities. Let's explore a bit more on each of these opportunities for recycled water. Green infrastructure basically is the green spaces with vegetation and trees such as garden parks, birds, median stripes, ovals, playgrounds, golf course, or any other urban forests. Why we need green infrastructures? Because growing urbanization need more green spaces, vegetation, and trees for creating cool and green environment and promoting community health and urban livability. Further addition of 1 million people by 2030 in Perth requires additional 4,500 hectares of green infrastructures. In addition, local council, environmental groups, and community leaders are attempting to increase the tree canopy and green spaces across Perth metropolitan region to develop green communities. Trees, gardens, and other green infrastructure need water to establish, maintain, and grow. These activities get water from local groundwater. Since groundwater is almost fully allocated in most of the parts, there is no additional groundwater available for those green infrastructure in future. In most part of the Perth, wastewater recycling could be the alternative. However, current practice of wastewater treatment along the coastline would not be cost effective in that situation. It would be expensive to transport back the treated water to the catchment or to the required area. This problem can be solved with a local wastewater treatment facilities and localized wastewater recycling. A localized wastewater recycling option would not only be cheaper but also a sustainable option. Local council could be the partner in localized water recycling to maintain their green infrastructures, parks, ovals, and bursts. Furthermore, this option can reduce the wastewater flow to the major wastewater treatment plant located at the coastline, which can significantly avoid the capital investment for upgrading these facilities. Other benefits will be reduced ocean outfall, reduced energy use, and reduced carbon emission. Similar to the green infrastructure, another important opportunity for recycled water is agriculture, horticulture, and plantation industry. In this way, the urban growth naturally demands expansion of agriculture and horticulture industries to ensure reliable supply of agricultural products to the urban communities. The agriculture and horticultural expansion greatly depends upon the reliable water availability. As we have already discussed, there is uncertainty in groundwater availability in future. That left only one option, which is recycled water. By nature, agriculture and horticulture industries are water exhaustive industries that require water all around the year and thus can effectively utilize the winter flow of recycled water as well. Winter flow of wastewater means the excessive recycled water during winter, which wouldn't be utilized for irrigation purpose, since most of the garden, parks, and green infrastructures get enough rainfall during winter. The winter flow is a critical issue for localized wastewater recycling, especially at the inner part of Perth metropolitan region, since it requires the largest possible facility and infrastructures for transporting all the wastewater during winter. No matter how much water you recycle throughout the year, if you couldn't utilize the winter flow, then you have to have this type of infrastructures on place. This greatly undermines as well as discourages the localized water recycling and reuse options. This winter flow issue can also be resolved by developing woodlots and plantations. Woodlots and plantations can be established on buffer land or any bare land near the wastewater facilities. The buffer land is a virtual area around the wastewater treatment facility to cope the smell, which is usually restricted for residential development. On the other hand, the woodlots provide temporary parking of the recycled water so that it could be utilized in future for other beneficial land use activities. In this way, irrigated woodlots and plantation will help to secure buffer area, capturing winter flow, providing carbon offsets, revenues from wood logs and wooden chips, as well as saving costs and energy expenses in wastewater transport, distribution, and reuse. Furthermore, the agriculture and horticultural industries, the plantation and woodlots can utilize the biosolids produced during wastewater treatment process. The biosolid can be utilized as a compost and biofertilizer to enhance the agricultural horticultural production as well as to support woodlots and plantation. Different industries can utilize different qualities of recycled water for different purposes, such as cleaning the plant and floors, cooling towers, production process, and as a potable water after treatment. Additionally, industries can utilize the solid waste products to generate bioenergy and biogas. Some industries can utilize biosolid to produce compost and biofertilizers as well. At the same time, some industries can convert those biosolids into building blocks or some utilize them through landfill. Another important opportunity for recycled water is to support environmental amenities. As we have already known, the growing population have depleted the available water resources and the drying climate has reduced the aquifer recharge rate. This is reflected in less availability of rainfall and depleted water resources. The reduced water level causes tremendous negative impact on the catchment environment and biodiversity, which are dependent on those water resources. Wastewater recycling can effectively resolve such negative environmental impacts by supporting threatened wetlands, protecting from saline intrusion and other negative soil environments, supporting local vegetations, bushland, and green corridors, as well as maintaining stream health and flow. These activities directly or indirectly recharge the shallow and deep aquifer underneath the ground and enhance water availability across the Perth metropolitan region. By supporting the environmental amenity, we can utilize the winter flows, support ecological corridors, reduce urban heat island effects, create recreational opportunities, and increase urban livability. The last but not least option, the last but not least opportunity for recycled water is non-potable water supply to urban residential setting via dual water reticulation. This is viable option because increasing population demand more water for their household non-potable consumption. In Perth, almost half of the supplied water is wasted outside for outdoor activities. especially the garden irrigation that doesn't require drinking quality water. Perth householders can install private bores and utilize groundwater for watering their gardens. But as we have already mentioned, groundwater is declining, and that declining groundwater level may limit the use of those bores. This ultimately put pressure on scheme water supply because people use supplied water for gardening and other activities. This problem can be solved using recycled water for garden irrigation and other outdoor water use activities. However, the recycled water should be provided via a separate reticulation system to avoid any cross connection and health hazards. All the previous discussion indicates that wastewater recycling is a viable option, sustainable option, and there are several opportunities to utilize recycled water for beneficial land uses and water use activities. Here we are explaining 4 different scenarios. We will explain each of those recycling scenario one by one with their attributes, purpose, and benefits. For Perth metropolitan region, 4 wastewater recycling scenarios are viable. The first one is conventional wastewater recycling, which is business as usual model. The second one is groundwater replenishment. The third one is localized recovery and reuse. And fourth one is combined groundwater replenishment and localized recovery and reuse. Let's talk about the first scenario, which is conventional recycling. In this scenario, there will be no external intervention. All the wastewater will come down to the pumping station, and those pumping stations pump wastewater to the coastal wastewater treatment plants, where wastewater is treated up to certain standards and then disposed into marine environment through ocean outfalls. This diagram represents Perth metropolitan region. There are wastewater treatment plants along the coastal line and several wastewater pumping stations pumping wastewater down to the treatment plants. In this scenario, there will be no reuse of recycled water. Wastewater from the source comes down to the pumping station, then those pumping stations pump wastewater down to the treatment plants, and those treatment plants treat wastewater up to certain standard and then throw out to the ocean via ocean outfalls. Let's talk about groundwater replenishment scenario. In this scenario, wastewater from the source is pumped to the treatment plant, which are located in the coastal region, where wastewater is treated. After treating wastewater, treated wastewater is injected into deep aquifer, which is known as groundwater replenishment. Second scenario is structurally similar to the first one. The wastewater comes to the pumping station and the station pumps it to the wastewater treatment plant. The wastewater treatment plants become resource recovery center where the wastewater is treated up to drinking quality standard and then injected into deep aquifer or various layers of aquifer via injection bores for future scheme water supply. Almost 80% of water can be recovered at wastewater treatment plants, and the remaining should be disposed into ocean via ocean outfall. Scenario 3 is localized recovery and reuse scenario, which is a new paradigm where local pumping station becomes wastewater resource recovery and reuse plant. These local pumping stations not only collect but also recover and recycle wastewater for various local land use activities. As a result, local community will become water sufficient community that import less scheme water and export less wastewater. Another major benefit is to cap wastewater flow to the major wastewater treatment plants so that the capital investment for upgrading the conveyance treatment and buffer capacity of major wastewater treatment plant will be reduced. This will help to develop a sustainable wastewater system with a stable wastewater flow regime. And as I have already mentioned, it will develop water sufficient communities. Scenario 4 is a mix of both the groundwater replenishment and localized recovery and reuse scenarios. In this scenario, the local pumping station perform dual activities. It pump wastewater to the wastewater treatment plant where applicable, and also acts as a wastewater resource recovery plants where applicable. The wastewater treatment plants treat and recover the water resource and inject it into deep aquifer, while the local pump station, that means wastewater resource recovery plants, recover the water resources and utilize it for local industries, agriculture, green infrastructure, and other land use activities. This is integrated and explicit scenario which provides benefit for all the coastal region as well as inner part of our metropolitan region, and it supports the local community, local catchment, as well as deep aquifer.
Scenario 1 is business as usual, where there was no intervention at all. Scenario 2 and 3 present different approach to augment the scheme water supply in future. Scenario 2 emphasizes to the large-scale scheme supply via groundwater replenishment, whereas Scenario 3 prioritizes the small-scale wastewater resource recovery plants to utilize recycled water locally for watering, local green infrastructures, and other beneficial land uses. Scenario 4, on the other hand, integrates the Scenario 2 and 3 to present a holistic approach to fulfill the projected gap between water demand and supply across Perth metropolitan region. The combined scenario also helps in reducing the uncertainty about future water availability and thereby reducing the competition for water resources from different water users. When the uncertainty can be resolved with the reliable availability of recycled water resources, most of the unfair competitions and groundwater restrictions can be avoided. This will be a great strategic benefit for the water provider, government authority, as well as consumer communities.